reorient its foreign policy along the concepts of Rimland theory, what can be the benefits or limitations of such approach? Discuss. Can India reorient its foreign policy along the concepts of Rimland theory? What can be the benefits or limitations of such an approach? Discuss or critically discuss or whatever. Let us put this in 3-box format first, okay? What is stated, what is asked, and how do you conclude? So, what is stated? Rimland theory state किया है, इंडिया का फॉरेन पॉलिसी स्टेट किया है, पॉलिसी पे रेफरेंस है, रेफरेंस. Implied in this is probably India's challenges, India's concerns, kahin na kahin implicit hai. And hence I'm saying let's apply Rimland theory. Hence I'm saying let's modify our foreign policy. So implicit in this statement is that there are challenges, there are concerns, there are prospects. Implicitly stated is that things are changing very fast. Things are in a state of deep flux. Stated is that somebody is curious, somebody is worth knowing. Maybe it is an unfamiliar man in a new experience. जब भी तो आपका नाम पूछ रहा है ना, मैं आपका नाम कौन पूछेगा जो आपको जानता नहीं है लेकिन curious है. So if I know this implied context, I can always write 2 lines on it. ठीक है? That's the idea. So lot of statements, lot of, you can say conversations में कुछ implied status होता है. So in our question here, what is implied जो assumed है is that India में foreign policy matters, things are changing rapidly, there are concerns, there are challenges, there are prospects. Now it is time to rethink on the foreign policy. And can you tell me if the foreign policy can be on the lines of Rimland theory? So यही आपका बनेगा introduction. Okay, so post maybe globalization of 1990s, post economic crisis since 2008, post re-emergence of a new Cold War between US and China, India must reconsider, India must restate its policies related to foreign aspects and maybe related to power relationships with the world around. ये आपका implicit हो गया, which is asked कि अब सब change हो रहा है, things are dynamic, things are altering. So we need to reconsider if we want to change our foreign policy, and one of the options is Rimland theory. Let's consider that. Did you understand what I mean by what does a question state? Yes? So stated में, which is given. Stated में, what the question already has. Stated में, okay, the dimension the question already incorporates. Write 2 lines on it. Okay, given the post-globalization of 1990s, which is unraveling very fast, given the fact that there are economic crises across the world since the 2008 subprime crisis, okay, there is a re-emergence of a new form of a Cold War. India needs to rethink on the foreign policy, and the geopolitical theories of Mackinder and Rimland do offer an alternative in how we can develop. So we'll answer that. Okay, this is what is stated. Now come towards what is asked. What's asked is a Rimland relevant, and how and why? यही है आपका short में. Is Rimland relevant for India? If yes, how and why? If no, tell me how and why. So इसमें हम शुरू करेंगे that India. So what are the points? You say India is part of the Rimland. India is at the head of the Indian Ocean. Okay, India has a long coastline, almost more than 7,000 kilometers. India is integral to any Indian Ocean trade, okay, any Indian Ocean based policy. You cannot ignore India, okay? And in these circumstances, consolidation of India as an important rimland country is important. Okay, India is at the head of Indian Ocean. India is part of the rimland. India has a long coastline. Indian Ocean का trade, a sizable amount of trade है, where you can't ignore India's role in that. Okay, Indian Ocean is a very important part of lot of developments. You can't ignore that. Okay, there are resources. Okay, there are resources in the ocean. So in this context, we say the yes, consolidation of India as a rimland country is important. Okay, if India can develop its relationships with the other rimland countries, it becomes a kind of a crescent, inner crescent, outer a crescent of Indian influence हो सकता है. This arc of rimland can become a crescent, an arc of Indian influence. So yes, we can do that. So this is one argument, ठीक है? That yes, given the position India is in. Now, the other part of the debate, okay, yes, you can, इसमें examples दे सकते हो. Examples will be SARC का potential है. India as a part of ASEAN potential hai. India as a part of Quad has potential. Indian Ocean rim countries and BIMSTEC, Bangladesh, India, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Thailand economic cooperation. Okay, so these are the areas where India has a role to play, and it looks like this is fairly complementary to the rimland. Is fairly complementary to the rimland. This could be one paragraph. Okay. Now I'll say the other part. देखो आप. The other part is now say it says that the advantage of rimland as discussed in the theory. The advantage of rimland as discussed in the theory is primarily in relationship to Russia as the heartland, and the US posing itself as a counter to Russia. कि rimland theory जो बना था, the advantage of rimland, you are looking from what perspective? वो बताओ ना. Rimland का जो advantage था, rimland, whatever prospects the rimland has, the evaluation was primarily in relationship to Russia as the heartland, and the US posing itself to counter Russia. So in this theory, what happens is rimland is a convenient theater, okay, for US to pose credible challenge to Russia. And this cannot be the objective of India, okay? This is a US-centric angle where they are fighting the Cold War. So can you say that this can become the basis of India's foreign policy? We say no. This is a very, very narrow interpretation. Okay, now because of this, we say rimland conveniently ignores Africa. It ignores Latin America. It has ignored, down south, Australia and New Zealand ka role. So in these circumstances, you are leaving out a very important part. Then another point, the rimland and its advantage is based on its location and its physical setting, with a common advantage of coastal access. That the advantage is based on what? It's based on location alone. It is based on the idea that these countries का एक ही advantage है, that they have a coastal access. But in modern geopolitics, there are other bases of importance too. There is a resource angle of oil, of gas. Ignoring that, there is an ocean biodiversity angle. We have ignored that. India's monsoon basis, ये बहुत important advantage है, ये भी ignore हो गया. Okay, we are ignoring the cultural element. So when you're developing a new foreign policy, you have to consider cultural elements too. You have to consider India's monsoon and monsoon related activities. You have to consider the importance of ocean biodiversity and ocean based integration. Okay, oil resources, energy security, ये dimensions Rimland ने छोड़ा हुआ है. So if I purely go by Rimland, it's a wrong strategy. We have ignored Africa, New Zealand, Latin America. This is a grave mistake. We are ending up as US-centric policy. That's a grave mistake. If you're ignoring the other aspects of geopolitics, ये भी grave mistake है. पूरा Rimland, the entire Rimland is essentially based on military confrontation. It ignores soft power, proxy wars. It ignores the role of MNCs. It ignores cyber, space and security. Okay, so Rimland, if I go purely by Rimland, I'm going to miss all of this. So it is a narrow interpretation again. Guys, are you able to appreciate what we are doing here? You don't have to write about Rimland theory. You don't have to write about what Spikeman is saying. But to apply and tell us, can India's foreign policy, can India's foreign policy be designed around Rimland or not? It proxy wars, we're talking about typical Pakistan ka proxy war hai, Naxal problems hai. You have got terror attacks, you have got human trafficking, you have got drug syndicates. Yes, it does ignore. It does ignore. That Rimland ignores the political history of the region. Rimland theory में ये जो history है, India का history है, history of Middle East है, there's the history of Southeast Asia, the history of China, वो पूरा ignore ही कर दिया है. You cannot see the world beyond World War II. Whatever Rimland says, Rimland has based its concepts on what happened in World War II and anticipating what will happen after that. It's ignoring the region's history. I mean, India, Pakistan, and partition of India. I mean, how can you ignore? So Rimland theory में तो India, Pakistan भाई भाई हो गए overnight, गले मिल लेंगे हम लोग. A very important part of India's foreign policy will be South Asia. India and Sri Lanka history, India, Nepal history, India, Bangladesh history. It's ignoring all of that. So it will be a very narrow interpretation of what India can do, a very narrow interpretation of how India can engage with the countries. So as a conclusion, what we'll say is, you can think of this, that India's foreign policy has to be maybe a Rimland plus approach. It can be Rimland plus. Ye plus mein, you go beyond Rimland also. I'm just coining a word. You can always debate on this. Okay? India's foreign policy should not be Eurocentric or it should not be US-centric. That's what Rimland does. India's foreign policy cannot be centered around the communism motivations of or containment of communism motivation of the US. And there are new components. You can talk about COVID diplomacy. You can always talk about monsoon diplomacy. ये सब नए elements हैं.